Hey guys, welcome back to What the Fat. This is our Fun Friday episode. You guys have heard two incredible segments from the man, the myth, the legend, the muscle man, Dr. Jacob Wilson. On Wednesday, you heard a little bit about his story, the underdog. Yesterday, for those of you who are in the keto world, heard all about this concept. I think we provided a little bit of clarity on the metabolic advantage to things. But today I want to touch on something a little bit different because you and I, we've learned a lot over the years. A lot. Over the years. It'll end up in the book one day. Yeah. But I want to switch gears and talk a little bit of business and talk a little bit about some of the core things that you think are extremely important. Because like you and I growing up, like sure we like sold cards, but sold like baseball cards and stuff all the time. We both were paper delivery boys. Like we learned that concept. We did. But it wasn't like we went to school for business, but we ended up creating Aspie and multiple different businesses now. But let's talk a little bit about, for those people who are interested a little bit in the business side of things, some of the core ideas and principles that you have about what allows people to truly make sustainable businesses.
Well, first I want to say is if someone's out there and a lot of people look up to you as an entrepreneur, having CEO of Ketogenic.com. Building the ASPI business, building multiple other businesses, and they go, I want to be an entrepreneur too, right? The one thing I'm going to tell you guys about being an entrepreneur was one thing Tony Robbins told me. He's like, Jacob, being an entrepreneur is being a gladiator. I said, yeah, I agree. He goes, no, it really is, because when you're a gladiator, you can go in the ring and die. And the majority of businesses die. So if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you need to be willing to die. Okay?
That's a good point.
And I say that's the first thing you need to understand about like business, is that. Now, would you agree with that?
No doubt.
Yeah. So as far as other aspects, I think on business, the biggest thing that you and I have found is, you could make mistakes all you want. The number one thing there are a couple things that you need to be able to have is, number one is you need to be able to add value to the marketplace and to people, and that value needs to be unique, right? So if you can add value and a lot of other people can add the same thing, it creates really bloody competition, and that means that everyone has power over you and it's very hard to survive. So number one is think about what's your unique gift, what's your gift that's valuable, that is unique in the marketplace. That's the first thing you have to understand. Number two is basically being relationships. Using that value, that unique value that God gave you to create relationships and truly help people. And that's the second thing I would say. And that's actually the biggest thing I found with you, Ryan, is that you've always been one of those guys that like you add value, but you also do the third thing, and that's you play the long game. And I know that you've done that your whole life, but like I've seen you develop relationships for over a decade before anything even came out of it that was monetary. And you literally just brought value to a person or a company for that long game. And then that turns into something monetary, which is a really cool thing.
Right, and I appreciate that, but I think a lot of people forget about that concept, and everyone's looking for short-term results, right? Because that's simple. It's easy to go, cool, I want to create my own ebook, or I want to create this book, or I want to write Hook and ask this guy for an investment. But like, I'll give you an example. For you and I, there's been times at Aspie when it's been easy to like look at someone and say, hey, this is a time, like let's look at this and ask for an investment. But it's been going like 3 years now. Like we've grinded it out. That we've never asked a single soul for it.
Never.
And that's something that has allowed us to continue building relationships. I think that's one of the most important pieces that people take away today. I think there's going to be a lot of gems, but really taking away the concept of the long game. Like it doesn't matter if you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. Like I think Gary Vee says it, like eat shit for 10 years and then you can start asking for things. Like I think that's one of the most important pieces is throughout our entire careers, like there's been times where we're the people picking up the trash, and you'd look at it, and we had master's degrees, right? You have a master's degree and you're like picking up the trash because like the little things matter and people recognize that. And it's not for someone to recognize, it's that you understand the little things do matter and they add up, and that's what's going to allow you to build relationships. And I think one of the best examples of this is like a guest that we've had on before, one of our good friends, Sean Wells. He talks a lot about it with his position at Dymatize. And so they brought him on, they created a position for him, but he was the guy that would stay late. Like he had his position, but like he'd stay late and help marketing. He'd stay late and like help sales, or come in early and be in the sales meeting. And people are like, oh, we're utilizing this guy. Like we're going to use this guy because he's willing to do it. And he was like laughing in the long run, because he's like, no, I'm actually like not utilizing you, but I'm learning from you, because one day I want to have all of that knowledge. I want to know how to do marketing, how to do sales, how to do research and development, how to run a company. So that way one day when I'm ready to fulfill those shoes, I'm in that type of position. I think oftentimes people forget about the long game and try and rush too quickly.
That's exactly right. It's like those are two like key points. Is one is that like being able to give value is clearly, it's like your skill set. Like the constant thing that you and I have worked on our whole careers is building our skill set. We're constantly studying, we're constantly training our minds, everything, so that we can add more value to other people. And the second thing is having access, and that is relationships. But if you're in business and you have access to a political leader, if you have access to a multi-billionaire, if you have access to an organization that is changing the world, or someone who's going to build the next Olympic Games, that is great. But if that door is open and you can't do anything for that person, the door is going to be shut just as fast. Or it might have taken you 20 years to open the door. If you can't provide value, it's going to get shut in 2 seconds.
You know, I'm really glad you brought that up. That was literally one of the first things I think you've ever taught me. So I don't think a lot of people know this, because I don't think I've talked about it enough. When I was a freshman coming in, you literally sat me down after, like we were in, I forget, it was back when you actually like taught classes. It was like, I think it was health science, and you asked for help on a baseball study. It was the first study we had ever done.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I play baseball. I want to get involved. Like, this is it. And like over the course of time, you like were like, all right, I'm going to take this guy underneath my wing. Like we're gonna do this. And you sat me down one day and you said, you know what? I started asking about like my future. I was like, should I become a professor? What do I want to do? And you said, listen, like when you're ready for that time point, like when that time comes, any door that you want will be open. The question you have to ask yourself is, when that door is open, you get one shot at going through that door. Do you have the skills and abilities to make sure that you fulfill, and you not only go through that door, you fucking pound through it?
Yeah.
And that was something that like really sat with me. I was like, damn, like he's right. That's why on weekends when my friends were going out, like having a good time, I was like, damn, you know what? I should be in here. Like I'm grinding in the lab, because I never know when that door is going to open. And God forbid that door is open and I'm not ready to step through it. That's the missed opportunity that someone could look back on in their life when they're in a senior center home and they're looking back and saying, what if, right? What if? And that's the biggest regret that most people have.
It's actually a really good point, because the funny thing is, like, this is why you're so unique. I told, I don't know, maybe in my career, 1,000 people this thing. And in that academic career, in that environment, there are times where like I introduce people, a lot of people, right? And I really can only name, like, there's only 2 people like I know, like in my academic career, where they hit home runs every single time. Not every single time. There's only one person I know who's ever hit home runs every single time a door's been open. It's been you. You know what I mean? I've had doors over for me. I've swung and missed, right? But this guy's Mr. October. But the biggest thing to understand is that you took that to heart. And I saw 1 million people where here's a door, walk through it. And I'm telling you, they didn't. They didn't. Like, you took it serious. And I think that's one of the things that people have to understand is, like, every opportunity, it may be your last. And you have to treat it that way.
So important, man. I think there's going to be a lot of people listening to this that really resonates with, and they understand that you may only get that opportunity once. Like, we've had opportunities present ourselves a ton where we have one shot at making this thing become a reality, and if we weren't ready for it, it wouldn't happen. Aspie wouldn't be here. Ketogenic.com wouldn't be here. Like, all these things wouldn't be here if we weren't ready for that opportunity and bust through the door and say, you know what, let's make the best of this opportunity, because this is a relationship we've been building for 5, 10, 15 years that now we're ready to execute on and come through, because that door is now open. And I think oftentimes now we're in this age of people who see social media, they see people and they're like, oh, I want to be what that guy is, or oh, I want to get where that guy is. And they just expect the door to be open and them to like lollygag through it. And yeah, like there's any door right now. There's so many doors we're 1 degree of separation from so many people, but the question is, are you like, people aren't going to just open that door if someone's not really ready to pound through it and take advantage of it, because you open that door and say you recommend someone for one thing. And that's one of the things that I've always taken to heart is like, you've recommended me for internships back when I was in school, or recommended me for positions that we ended up turning down, thankfully, to now create Ask Me. But you recommended me, and I go, this guy's putting his neck on the line. Like, because if I were to go through and I were to take advantage of that opportunity and I blew it, that's a reflection of you. And so I think that's one of the biggest things is like, if people are willing to put their neck on the line, like you have to be willing to pound through and take advantage of that opportunity.
Yeah, I totally agree, 100%.
And so one of the things that I think, because of the social media age, like you see, like entrepreneurism is like blowing up, right? Everyone now wants to be an entrepreneur. It's the age of entrepreneurs. So like, I think you hit one of the key points in the beginning is like, you have to be willing to be that gladiator. You have to be willing to go into the ring thinking, like knowing you could die on the other end of this. So I think for some people are like, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to do that. And I think that's great, because if you look at it, like Jordan wouldn't be Jordan without Pippen. And like, there has to be a Pippen to make Jordan, you know? And a lot of times people go, I want to be Jordan. I want to be Jordan. And it's like, you don't want to be Jordan and you want to be Jordan because it looks good on the outside, but you don't want to be Jordan when it's 3 a.m. and he's in the court shooting hoops, missing out on his son's birthday, and you're at home and you'd rather be at home enjoying that. Like, that's the type of grind that it takes to be a Jordan when someone else might not be willing to go through that.
Well, that's the other thing too, is that you really have to ask yourself, like, I'm not on this show telling everyone be a entrepreneur. Right. To be quite honest, like, I might even recommend against it a lot of times, like having look back. Like, we are where we are, we've had success. But I mean, like, it's really changing lives is really the whole outcome, and that's whether, so you can think about being in your own company. Like, being in a company, you don't have to be an entrepreneur, a CEO, a president. You could be in your company and use the same principles. There are going to be doors that open up in your company where you have an opportunity to shine. You know, and that's when you do. And so bringing value to everyone around you in that organization is what's going to bring you up in that organization.
I love it, brother. And I think that's a perfect way to wrap up this week, because we hit on so many amazing points. But let's recap it. 3 of your top tips for someone who is interested not only in business, if they are thinking about becoming the gladiator of and becoming an entrepreneur, or like you said, like there's ways to accelerate even inside of your own company where you might get one opportunity to shine and you got to bust through that door. So what are 3 tips to take away? Like one of them you clearly said was add value.
Add unique value. Value that's unique in the marketplace. Okay. Number 2, make sure that you surround yourself with really good people. That means developing phenomenal relationships. That's everything. I can tell you something right now. You could delete everything we have, delete all our possessions. And by the way, that's happened before. Yep. And it's what's in our phones and our relationships. You and I would build it back better than it was before within 12 months' time. And that's because we can add value into relationships that we have. So I say those are 2 things. The other thing is, once you then identify the customer and identify what's generating revenue, and look at your budget, and if you're spending money on things that aren't generating revenue, classify it in type A, type B, type C priorities, or type A, B, and C revenue. And if C's not making anything, cut it. And then keep an eye on B. And eventually, just have an A list. That's just my method, but I know you have to look at B's as well. But I'm just saying, like, you really need to look at C's, and at the end of the year, cut them. Those are my top 3 things. Like, don't waste your time.
I love it, man. Yeah. You crushed it. I think those are definitely some of the top 3. The only one that I'd add on top of that is progress over perfection. I think that's one of the biggest things. Is a lot of times people get hung up on perfection, not only in business, in their workplace in general. And I'm kind of probably like that blend of that type A personality where like I'm very trying to stay to details. And it's been a challenge, but I understand like putting something out is better than it being perfect and waiting 2 years for it to ever come out. And I think that's one of the biggest pieces is like, just get out there, like dabble in it, like explore it, get involved. And it's not going to be perfect. Even if you wait 2 years and try and make it perfect, I promise you it still ain't going to be perfect.
Yeah.
So just progress over perfection. I think that's one of the only tips.
100%. Because the thing is, even if you excel it and you organize it today and you takes you 6 months to put it out.
Changes.
It's that what was perfection 6 months ago is no longer perfection today. It's old news.
Right.
Beautiful.
Love it, brother. Well, hey, man, appreciate you coming back on. I think the world is going to get a ton of value out of this week. And undoubtedly, we'll have to have you back on, brother. I can't wait. And I just want to say thank you for everything you've done for me, for the world, for everyone around us. You've been a huge source of light inspiration. So appreciate you coming back on.
Thanks a lot, Ray. I really appreciate it.
Boom.